Hello everyone and welcome back to another average review. This isn't a video I expected to make, but I found this guy at a GameStop and well, I knew I had to get him. That's right, today we're going to be reviewing the Marvel Legends Spider-Man No Way Home Amazing Spider-Man. Now, I say No Way Home, but the box says, oddly enough, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and it uses promotional shots from that movie. Now, what gives? Well, you see, even though this was released alongside all the other No Way Home figures and does feature some of the similar packaging styles like, the yellow and red lines connecting to the Spider-Man logo and pretty much the same formatting, there's some rights issues with the Amazing Spider-Man movies and Sony related to, stuff like merchandise. So basically, they either had to brand this as Amazing Spider-Man 2 or not release it. And of course, they chose to release it with Amazing Spider-Man 2 branding. Now granted, this doesn't look bad, but it's inconsistent and I don't like that. On the back, we, once again see Amazing Spider-Man 2, key art and the logo. And as usual with this line, we do get a bit of a bio, but it's just a regular Spider-Man bio, pretty much. I mean, it's different from the other Spider-Man men, but, besides the fact he's called the Amazing Spider-Man in the bio, there's no difference in the bios, pretty much. It's just a regular Spider-Man bio, which is, kind of a problem when you have three very different versions of the same character in a line. You'd want to differentiate them in their bios. Yeah, I know I always say I don't care about the box and I go on for 2 minutes about my thoughts on the boxes and minor nitpicks, but still, if there's something that I think needs improvement, then I'm gonna, criticize that thing and say how it should be improved. But anyways, like I usually say, let's get the box out of here and talk about the figure inside. Alright, taking old Andrew out of the package, and also swapping the unmasked head out for the masked head. And he looks like the Amazing Spider-Man 2 version of, Spider-Man. And yeah, the Marvel Legends team did a really good job on the sculpting of this guy. I mean, just like your usual movie Spider-Man, he's got the sculpted on webs, and they are painted really, really well, and there's a lot of them. I mean, look at the amount of web lines on that belt. That's a bit ridiculous, but I mean, it looks really good. The webbing is fantastic. I haven't really noticed any problems with the webbing, in terms of quality control. Well, with the web lines, there's this one specific spot right here that's got a bit of blue paint that shouldn't be there. That's something really minor, it's a really minor quality control thing, but I did notice it, so, I wanted to point that out. And, other than that, though, really good. The musculature is well defined on, the legs and a little bit on the chest, although it's kind of covered by, all the web sculpting. The red and blues are, a lot darker, which, that does go with the Amazing Spider-Man movie design. But I actually kind of like it, since, these red and blues, they look like they match. It's a dark red with a dark blue. It's not like with how they painted the Tobey Maguire one Spider-Man figure from this wave, where they had a really light red, but then a pretty dark blue. This looks really good. Now, I do have problems. Well, just one big problem, but it's an issue with the suit itself and not the figure. The figure is completely accurate, but there's something I really don't like about the suit, and you've probably noticed it. The spider logo is really, really low down. Taking out Renew Your Vows, Spidey, and yeah, you can see my point. That spider logo is long, but it's way too low down for my tastes. Although moving back to things I do like, the eyes, they seem very, Mark Bagley-esque. Mark Bagley's, one of those legendary Spider-Man artists, and, I like that the mask on this costume sort of pays tribute to his art. I also like how this figure is, pretty lean, just like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was. It's sort of like that Todd McFarlane 90s feel. And that's what this costume really reminds me of. And, I'm a big fan of Todd McFarlane and, his Spider-Man art. So this is really nice. I do feel like the spider on the back could, I don't know, it feels like it's the paint is really thin on there. So at the lower parts of the legs, it's not as noticeable. But once again, that's just a thing with the movie design, not the figure. So I can't really be too hard on it, It's a great sculpt. It's just that some parts of the sculpt that I must mention are really accurate aren't my favorite. Now, one thing I'm really hoping to also be satisfied by is the articulation, since, it's a Spider-Man figure. He needs to be able to, get into some dynamic poses. Now, his head is on a dumbbell joint, which lets him look up this far, look down this far, spin his head all the way around, and tilt side to side. But oddly enough, you might be able to see it, but there's a cut in the neck that, might allow for some range, but it doesn't really do anything, so I'm questioning why it's there. But what I'm not questioning is the butterfly joint right here. I think pretty much every Spider-Man should come with a butterfly joint. He's got the standard Marvel Legends swivel hinge shoulders, they spin all the way around, and hinge above 90 degrees, which is really good. He's also got bicep swivel with 360-degree rotation, double jointed elbows with that's a pretty good bend. Wrists that can spin around and hinge up and down. Your usual Marvel Legends hand articulation. And what's become the norm for Marvel Legends Spidey figures is the diaphragm joint and waist crunch. Using both, he can't really arch forward as much as I'd like, but he gets a really good amount of arch back. And at the diaphragm joint, he gets, twist all the way around and tilt side to side. Now, he's got the standard Marvel Legends ball-jointed hips. They kick this high, which is about 90 degrees, and they split this far. Now, I would like to mention their drop-down hinges, but they don't really help with kicking forward or splitting, so I'm kind of questioning their inclusion. He does have the standard Marvel Legends thigh cut, which, gives you 360-degree rotation at the thigh, and double-jointed knees with a pretty good bend. I feel like they could maybe bend a bit deeper, with a bit of alterations to the sculpt, but still, pretty good bend there. And of course, standard Marvel Legends ankle articulation, which moves backwards a very far amount, forwards, and pivots side to side. Overall, it's a pretty standard articulation for a Marvel Legends Spider-Man. Only issue, I wish he could hunch forward a little more. Moving on to the figure comparisons, and we gotta start out with our standard figure comparisons, the Marvel Legends Renew Your Vows Spider-Man and Spinneret. I do find it kinda interesting how similar the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man design is to the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit. I mean, the Mark Bagley-esque eyes, the darker blues, the big logo. Granted, they're pretty surface-level similarities, but I found it a little interesting. Although, since this is branded as an Amazing Spider-Man 2 figure, we gotta bring out the Marvel Legends retro-carded Gwen Stacy. It isn't specifically the Emma Stone version, but they're pretty much wearing the same outfit in the comic and the movie, so I'd say it works. Although I do gotta say, if you own this figure, be careful with the neck articulation. Although there isn't an Amazing Spider-Man 2 Green Goblin figure, and thank God that design is atrocious, I do feel like the Toy Biz Marvel Legends Green Goblin from the Onslaught waves actually pairs pretty well with this guy, what with the darker, more muted color scheme. Although, since he did meet them in No Way Home, I suppose I should bring out the Toy Biz versions of Green Goblin and Doc Ock from the Raimi Spider-Man movies. Although, for two figures produced for No Way Home, here's Sandman from Spider-Man 3 and J. Jonah Jameson. Although, of course, we have to bring out Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland as the other two Spider-Men in No Way Home from this same retro carded line. Also, hey, just because it fits with the theme of the movie, here's all three peers without their masks that J. Jonah Jameson just loves oh so much. Although, hey, as is tradition, here's Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and No Way Home with Hit Monkey and Goliath. Now, in terms of accessories, as I've shown and mentioned, The Amazing Spider-Man comes with an unmasked head in the box and an alternate masked head. And hey, that unmasked head, that's an amazing Andrew Garfield likeness. I do kind of feel like there's a bit more hair on the head sculpt than Andrew Garfield actually has, but I don't know, I might just be crazy. In terms of hands, though, he comes pre-packaged with two web-slinging hands. And speaking of web-slinging, I forgot to mention this, but there are web shooters molded into the arms of the figure, which is just a really cool touch. He also comes with an alternate fist and wall-crawling hand. Yeah, it's dumb that both him and Tobey only came with one wall-crawling hand. But hey, in the case of this figure, it actually doesn't look much like a wet wall-crawling hand, and more like an I'm about to kick you into next Sunday in 17 different ways kind of hand. Alright, here comes the least fun part of the video now. How much moolah do you gotta spend to get your hands on this guy? Well, if you were as lucky as me and found this guy in a store like GameStop, he'll run you $25. Just like a standard Marvel Legends figure. Although he's kinda tough to get your hands on. The only reason I found him at a GameStop was because I'm pretty sure there was a restock of these No Way Home figures there. So you're likely gonna have to rely on sites like eBay, where this guy, honestly, he doesn't go for as much as I expected him to. Around $30 to $40 in box, which, don't get me wrong, that's expensive. I probably wouldn't pay that for this guy, but if you want him really badly, then he's not as expensive as, say, some of the Toy Biz superposable Spider-Man figures from Spider-Man 2. So, TLDR, if you find him in a store, great! If you find him on eBay, maybe reconsider. So, factoring everything, both good and bad, I think I'm going to give the Marvel Legends Amazing Spider-Man 2 / No Way Home Andrew Garfield Spider-Man a 9 out of 10. I give it that score because while he's got some great factors, the limited torso articulation, low-down spider, and lacking in accessories do kind of hurt this figure. But hey, I'd say out of the 3 Spider-Men released in this No Way Home line, I'd say he ranks 2nd place. Above Tobey, but under the final swing Tom. If you've made it this far into the video, well, why not tell me how excited you are for the upcoming No Way Home Lizard and Electro to pair up with this guy? Personally, I think the Lizard figure looks pretty cool, but the Electro seems way too pricey for a deluxe figure. I mean, come on, are lightning effects worth an extra $5 or $10? But hey, like I said, if you're still here, then have a great day, 'cause you deserve it. Bye-bye.